Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colynn Hlokoff.
And I'm Meridee Hlokoff.
And welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colynn. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meridee?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colynn here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's recording of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. Today, we have decided to address our shadows. So we want to talk about shadow work, what that looks like. I guess in some ways, our own interpretations of what that has looked like in our lives, how that has evolved in our lives, because mine has very recently evolved in a way I didn't even know would come, which is part of the conversation that we're going to have today. So first of all, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate all of you who are downloading. Every time I log into Podbean or Apple, I'm always surprised that we actually have, even if it's like 12 downloads, I'm shocked, and I appreciate that you guys are willing to listen. And then on top of that, Facebook and the views we get, all of the things. So really, you guys, we appreciate you following us and listening and participating the way that you do. Please keep doing it. So let's get into it, Lynn. Okay, so I first came into this idea or concept of shadow work when I entered into the medicine world, right? So plant medicine world. It was talked about a lot. It took me a while to start to understand for me what that looked like. And then ever since then, it's just been growing and evolving. Even when we were in yoga teacher training not that long ago, there was some conversation about the Bible and about like where the light is, that's where God is. And even conversations like that take me another step deeper into understanding my idea of what shadow work is. So what happened for me initially was recognizing, first and foremost, jealousy. That's where I can say I started to learn a lot, because in my history, jealousy is like super normal. It's a huge part of ownership relationship. So what's ownership relationship, right? Ownership relationship is like we're in a partnership and I'm the boss of you and maybe you're the boss of me, but you can tell me who I can and cannot talk to. You can tell me what I can and cannot do. And that was the only type of relationship I had ever been in up until I came here to Costa Rica, which I then learned about being a sovereign being, sovereign like the queen, like in charge of my own self, and that two independent people come together and choose to be in relationship and then continually choose to be in relationship. They're not in relationship because they have to be.
right? Difference between sovereign and ownership. So when I started looking back over ownership relationship, one of the biggest struggles I had was jealousy. I had jealousy with my initial partner, like my first partner. Not as much, I would say. And then my second partner, who was, regardless of whatever it was he was doing, was not being truthful to me. And then I learned more as I continued in relationship, but yet with my then third, and I'm just talking about like major relationships, not random one-offs or whatever, thinking about
long term.
Yeah, longer term, more serious relationships, then I started to realize what jealousy was, and I actually started to handle it a lot different. So why don't I start with where it was? Okay. Prior, I can think of my second relationship being the most major with jealousy, because I don't think either of us were truthful to each other. And I hadn't always acted in integrity within relationship. So I had a partner, the partner had a wandering eye, was consistently in emotional connection relationships with other women on the regular, and then lied about it. So I was gaslit, right? I felt it. I think we feel what our partners feel. I felt it. I would confront him. He would tell me I was crazy. So what happened was jealousy equals crazy. I'm crazy. So then what I noticed when I was in a non-ownership relationship, that I would feel jealous, but I would not speak about it because it was so taboo, because it was so bad. So it's something I kept in the shadows. My jealousy, I'd always been told, was me being crazy. And that's not necessarily the truth. Yet that's something I hid for a long time. So what does that mean then to like start to make friends with the shadow, to start doing shadow work? Is like, I dive deep into that jealousy. I shine a light on it, right? Because it's dark and I hide it. And what that does in the dark is allows me to create a bunch of stories, usually bullshit, but not always. And then that's where the gaslighting comes in to just make it that much worse. When I started doing shadow work, what I do is I actually I imagine just like opening myself up and then reaching deep in on the back side of my heart and pulling out this jealousy and then looking at it. Shadow work is looking at it. I take it out, I take a look at it, and I examine it. What is this jealousy? So what I can see is that, to me, it is like my partner is going outside of the confines of our relationship. Okay. Jealousy is crazy. Jealousy is bad. Jealousy is unhealthy. Jealousy is I'm not enough. Jealousy is my partner's going to leave me. So I can look outside or I can look inside. And then when I look inside, I can start to see the root of where it comes from. So I'm insecure. I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I'm lovable. So then when I can look at that and I can start to see like, oh, this isn't even about the person, right? Then I can actually start to heal it, because there's two ways this can go, right? This started coming up in the relationship that was not ownership, and this came up in the relationship that was ownership. So if I look at my story is I am unlovable, right? And that's why I'm feeling jealous, because my ownership partner is out creating emotional connections with multiple women in which he's confiding, and I don't feel enough. So if I'm unlovable and then I allow myself to be with someone like that, then I will continue to create situations in which I will continue to feel unlovable. And then instead of actually leaving or doing some inner work, I'll try to control him, right? Tell him he can't talk to that person, ban him from going out or doing this or doing that, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, the funniest part is like, we're so resilient. So what did my partner do? He started to form emotional connections with people's moms, like kids' moms. So at the school, so you can't really be banned from going to pick your kid up from school. He started to create emotional connections with people at his work. So he can't be banned from going to work, right? So that's the beauty of it, is like, it's not like it stopped. I actually made it worse, because then he wouldn't be honest even more, because I would be jealous and then we would be in a fight. Okay. Ownership, the non-ownership relationship, I actually realized that jealousy is an internal indicator. So it's like an alarm system going off that something is out of order, out of balance within me. And now I can have a conversation with my partner. I'm feeling jealous. Great. When my partner's non-ownership, they will say, why? I will say, so I'm just thinking about an exact situation I had with a partner, and we were at this creek, and I was about to go off teaching, and he was going to hang out with his friends, and pretty much all his friends were female. So I said, I'm feeling jealous. And he said, why do you think? And I said, because if I look at it, take a minute, and I look inside and pull it out, and I look at it, it's like, oh, because I am going away for multiple weeks, months, actually, and you're going to be here and you're going to be visiting with women. So I've got like old stories attached to emotional connections outside of our relationship. And then I also think I'm not good enough. And he says, great, like, can we touch on the not good enough? Can you share these stories with me? So it's like an open conversation, so I can bring all those emotions out, look at them, and let them go. When they're crazy, I don't let them go, I hide them. So the shadow work is like shining a light. So then we were doing teacher training, and one of the students said, that he read in the Bible that where the light is, that's where God is. So if we make this about something like religion or whatever, everybody that knows me knows I'm not overly religious. And yet, I look at the Bible in different interpretations than fully Christian based. So what I get from that is, like, in the shadow where the jealousy is hiding, that's where the devil can do all his work, right? I don't need to go to hell. I'm in hell because I'm jealous and shit's terrible. And now I'm trying to control my environment to make myself feel better. Yet all I had to do was like shine a light on it so I could see that in this moment, which is the moment I had with the other partner, that I'm feeling sad.
Not good enough.
I'm just like covering up the fact that we're not going to be together for 2 months. And I'm going to also say, like, there's some fears. And so I'm looking at it, and we're able to have a conversation about it. And what that does is allow me to acknowledge the fact that my jealousy isn't me being crazy. It's an internal alarm that's saying, hey, babe, you're not paying attention to yourself. Yes. Here you are trying to control so that your partner doesn't go and see other females because he can't control himself so much that he's just going to go fuck them. Like, no, that's not going to help, because guess what? In my alternate experience was the fact that he just got better at hiding it.
Yeah.
So if he's going to do all that shit, it's going to happen regardless of how I'm controlling my environment. But what I can do is heal this. So what did you come up with? I was like, we were talking about, like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, well, let's talk about shadow. You're like, just wait, I'm reading a book. So I would love to hear, like, what do you get from this?
I mean, to start with, I always had this, like, okay, so there's the shadow side of ourselves, which is the side we don't want to show people. And within that shadow side and the side we don't want to show people are what we consider our negative or bad traits. And I've understood that part. Okay, fine. I think the part for me that's really shifted is, how do you integrate your shadow into your life? Because when you don't accept your shadow, now our shadow selves are like the sides of ourselves that we shame. But shame, according to Brené Brown, can only live in the dark. So shining a light, like you said, on the shadow allows you to open the door, which now you can't feel shame around it because you're speaking about it. And when you speak about it and someone else goes, oh my God, I feel the same way, suddenly now you have a connection with someone over something you were shaming yourself over. Even that, in the moment where, say, I'm trying to think of an example, and the one that's coming to me is, I just had a moment with my son, major proud mom moment. I didn't even tell you about this, but so in the past, in a moment like what we just had, so my son was triggered by something that his sister said. It was an emotional moment. It was very deep. It was related to their grandfather passing. She kind of almost like guilted, shamed him in a way in the words she said, because she was triggered. And then he didn't say anything. And in fact, he left for an hour and a half, 2 hours to go to his dad's, did all these things, comes back, and we're all sitting eating. And all of a sudden, he like starts to go off. And in his moment of going off, I'm like listening to him and I'm kind of like, holy shit, kid, you need to chill for a second. Like, you're treating her like shit right now. And one of the things that him and I have been talking about that we're both working on is not meeting people's energies. So the way you're approaching this, I know he's trying to come from a place of love, and that's not where he's coming from at all. Instead, he's yelling so loud and so deep, and it's so in there that he is like, you can tell the kid wants to fucking punch stuff. Like, he is that close to losing his shit, and he's treating her terribly. And so I'm like, Caden, you need to chill. I need you to calm down. Like, the way you're coming at her, don't treat her like shit because you're in a bad mood or because you're feeling any kind of way. Like, you need to calm down. And he just gets more angry because now I'm triggering him. And that was not my intention. My intention was, hey, look at the way you're talking to her. I understand that she's pissed you off, but look at the way you're talking to her. So he like loses his shit. I don't think I've actually ever seen him lose his shit the way that he did. He loses his shit, and then he grabs his stuff and he storms outside. And I kind of just sat there and I like looked at Brooke and I was like, because it went from like him losing his shit on her to him losing his shit on me and telling me to mind my own business and all these things. And I was like, I'm just trying to tell you not to talk to people the way you're talking to them, especially because your girlfriend is sitting right there. And if you'll talk to your mother and your sister like this, how are you going to talk to your girlfriend? So that was like the intention behind it for me. Now, normally in a situation where he would walk away. Now, first of all, if we go back even a year, the way that he screamed at me and the way I would have reacted to that scream is very different than the way I did react to it. So typically I probably would have gotten up because he stood up and was like screaming. I probably would have done the same, got up and got right in his face and started screaming the same way. Instead, I just sat there and looked at him and literally took my own advice, which was don't treat people badly and don't meet their energy. So I didn't meet his energy. I literally just looked at him and was like, hey, like, you're going off right now. And he was like, can you just like grabbed his shit and he stormed outside. And I was like, Normally I would also then send a text message that's like, hey, the way you just did that was really unfair, blah, 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 blah. I didn't do that either. I was like, I'm just going to sit here with this for a minute. I need to think about this. And so my daughter kind of looks at me and I'm like, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, I'm, and that was literally our conversation. And then she sat there for a minute and then all of a sudden she says, I hate being the bigger person, and like stands up and walks outside. And so his girlfriend comes inside because now it's going to be a conversation between brother and sister. Girlfriend doesn't need to be there for it. So she comes inside, she sits down. And then the door opens after about, I'm going to say about 10 minutes. The door opens and my daughter calls the girlfriend out and says, hey, can you come out and talk to me? And I'm like, okay, this is good. And then all of a sudden, my son walks in the door, comes into the living room, sits down in front of me and says, I just want to apologize. I'm like, jaw to the floor. Wait, what? I didn't say anything to initiate this apology. So what the hell is happening here? And he says, I shouldn't have treated you like that. I was super triggered. I was triggered by Brooke, not even you. I shouldn't have gone off on you. I don't want to treat you like that. I'm working on it and I'm really sorry. Now, I'm sure we've talked about in the podcast about the fact that like I wasn't very affectionate with my kids when they were super young or when they were in the age between say 5 and 12, 14, 15. I wasn't affectionate with them in that sense because, you know, they're grown-ups. They're not. But so Caden and I have been talking about that a lot. And we've been talking about the fact that like I'm more affectionate now. Like I'll sit with Brooke and cuddle with her on the couch and things like that. And if I hug him, he gets like this like weird look on his face. And I was like, you know, those things that you feel are so uncomfortable get more comfortable the more you do it. This whole affection thing has really surfaced in my life, in so many people's lives, in my son and my daughters, in my best friends, because she hates to be touched and all these things. And so he comes inside and we start talking. And I was like, my concern is that if you'll talk to me like that, and I'm supposed to be the person you really respect as like ultimately one of the people you respect the most, you'll talk to your girlfriend like that. And he's like, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. And then he kind of sat there and he like looked at me with this strange look. And I was like, what? And he's like, she doesn't say the things, but I wonder if she did, if I would. And I was like, I mean, this is part of the reason you need a girl who's a little bit more, and when I say submissive, I don't mean it in a negative way. She's just more timid. She's more quiet about it. She only says what she needs to say. She's not confrontational. She'll typically be the girl who, starts crying, and then you have to be like, hey, what's going on here? And it's hard for her to get her words out at that point. So he does need a girl that's like that, though. He's like me, and we have strong personalities. And when you're met with a strong personality, it makes it challenging. So within that, we both had a conversation about our shadow sides. Like, he doesn't want to show her that side, but if he doesn't work on it, guess what he's going to show her? And so in that moment, the way I also dealt with him was I have shown myself my shadow side and integrated it into my life. And what I mean by integrated it into my life is I've accepted that there are parts about myself that I don't like. And the only thing that I can do about that is, as those things surface, I get a choice as to how I move forward with them. So when I behave in ways I don't like, I go and apologize for my behavior. And then I do my best to change that behavior. Because if I change that behavior, that shadow no longer exists. Yes, it's there, and it's there to teach me something. And there's going to always be pieces of us that are shadows that we have to try to incorporate or that we have to try to embody. But we're not perfect. So why do we all try to pretend that we are? And that's kind of what this book that I'm reading is actually called Read People Like a Book. And it talks about like, notice other people's shadows, because they're trying so hard to push them behind them and hide them that you don't actually get to see them. But if you take a minute, you can see what people are trying to hide. And so my shadow sides are that I'm not perfect, that I can be bitchy, that I can be, not a great girlfriend or not a great mom, or like, for a lot of us, especially as we've like matured, and now my kids are 21 and 22 years old, having to own the fact that I wasn't a perfect mom, having to own the fact that me not being super affectionate with my children has affected them as adults. Like, when Caden and I were done having that conversation, I said, now you have to hug me. And he smirked and was like, ugh. And then he was like, I'm here. Like, he knew it's not comfortable for him, but that he stepped into that anyways. And so he hugged me, and it wasn't one of those like icky hugs. It was literally like, I love you, mom, and gave me like a proper hug. And so working on those pieces of myself that like, I wasn't a great mom, especially when my kids were really little. And then I always tell myself I did the best with what I had when I was there, which is what allows me to forgive myself for it. But once you know better, you can do better. And I didn't know better at the time. So for me, seeing my shadow sides and incorporating those into the real pieces of my life, my every single day life, that like a great example, I have a friend. She actually ended the friendship with me via text, and she gave me 3 reasons for it. And I saw 3 reasons as my boyfriend, and my boyfriend. Okay. Literally, that's the 3 things that were written in there. Now, it hurt my feelings because I really like this girl. And on my way from leaving the gym, I want to say it was last week or the week before, they were just pulling in her truck. And it took everything inside, I'm not even joking, every piece of me not to be like, fuck you, with my middle finger at them as I drove by. And not even her, him, because he's the reason that she wrote this message to me and ended the friendship. And in fact, today she approached me at the gym and said, you're not dead to me. I just needed to make sure my relationship was priority at the time. And I was like, as much as I understand that, I have my own opinions about that as well. And so, but I also was very honest with her, and I was like, I have to tell you though, like, driving by you two in the truck, all I wanted to do was finger him, because and it's not, I don't talk shit about people. Like, the last 3 years, that's major in my life where I don't talk shit about people. And I didn't talk shit about this guy. I provided her with facts about who he was. he played out all of those things and showed her who he was, which is why they're not together now, and which is why she approached me at the gym today. But within that, my shadow side has all these things that it wants to do. My ego wants to, be like, I'm hurt, so fuck you. Or being aware, I guess, of my ego and the way that, because I interpret these two things together, the way that my ego wants to protect me is sometimes my shadow side, because if I do the things that my ego wants me to do, I'm going to be behaving in ways that I don't like, in ways that I don't want to show up in this world as. And so instead, acknowledging it, seeing it surface, seeing all these things that the universe like puts in front of you and is like, do you really want what you say you want? Because I'm going to test you. And here's your test. You say you want to show up. You say you want patience. Here's your test on patience. Do you have it? These are all, for me, pieces of my shadow being integrated into my everyday life. Me acknowledging the things and then me moving through them and choosing to either stay with them or not.
We used to have a coach that would take the flashlight out and be like,
Yes,
oh,
she would.
let's look at that. And then she like even made flashlights like in her brand colors with like JJC on it. And it was, she did shadow work with us. And I didn't even realize at the time that that was shadow work.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you talk about integration, the first thing I think about is awareness, is becoming aware of it, and calling it out is bringing in the light. Like if what happened was Caden then spoke about it, which shone the light on it. And then there wasn't shame because he was able to express like also, whoa, and an insight about his relationship. And then you were able to connect, just like you were saying.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a situation right now in which I got messages and the message starts with, do you want to know what really pisses me off? And, at first I want to respond about like, okay, cool. Well, here's why I do those things. And here, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. And then also like here's what pisses me off about you.
Yeah. You.
Yeah.
You said, I don't want to talk about me. Let's talk about you.
So I have taken a couple days to chill, and I'm currently reading, my book right now is David Hawkins' Letting Go. And yeah, of course, let it go, let it go, let it go. And it gives you a
that's my
process on
tattoo.
how to let go.
Let it go.
Yeah. This is why it was like, shit, let it go just keeps coming up. So I'm listening to the book, and he talks about the frequency of emotions. Right? We were introduced that originally. I'm just going to shut the door. We were introduced that originally when I took you to the woman that was here in Costa Rica, and she has it on that big chart. And then I saw a coach start to speak about it, the frequency of emotions.
Yeah, my coach had started speaking about it before that. For me, it was amazing. But I saw it and I was like, oh shit.
And so when I go, this guy has a ton of books, but he, the recommendation was to do Letting Go or another one. So I picked, of course, Letting Go, because that's what kept coming for me, is this letting go. So what I realize is like also recognizing that when the shadows are there, that my emotional like intelligence is lower. Like if I look at this and I come from a place of pride, anger, or fear, shame, or guilt, and someone approaches me like, you want to know what really pisses me off? My reaction will be, well, do you want to know what really pisses me off? And now we're at like headbutting. And the only way that I'm going to be happy, or this person is going to be happy, is if I change these things that piss that person off. And the only reason I'm going to be happy, way I'm going to be happy with this person, is if they change. And so guess what? They're not going to change, because none of it's coming from a place of love. And then we're just going to fucking hate each other.
Yep.
So I've taken a few days, and I thought, and I listened, of course, perfect timing, in the book, in which he starts talking about, now imagine a healed person coming from a place of love, coming from a place of joy, coming from a place of enlightenment, coming from a place of acceptance. And someone says, do you want to know what really pisses me off? What my response will be is 100% different. Thank you for sharing. I know I'm not going to change because those things that that person is talking about is their interpretation. Like in this specific instance, I'm speaking to a person with nonviolent communication, and they told me I'm talking to them like a child because this person is used to just drama and fighting. So if I'm not coming from a place of drama and fighting, I'm speaking to them like a child because I'm speaking from a place of peace, and they don't fucking know peace.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to come out, well, do you know what pisses me off? I'm going to just thank you so much for sharing, for being vulnerable.
And also in that moment, when someone's saying, do you know what pisses me off? They're being pissed off and they're being triggered by their own shit being shown in you.
Exactly.
So again, this is not about me. Now, as we were talking about that, because right before, just showing Lynn right now, I actually wrote them down so I can read them to you guys because this is the emotions as energy frequencies. And now the frequencies have like
Wait, you just cut me off. I'm
sorry. Sorry.
Because I think as you're saying, I'm like, this will be helpful like after I kind of finish, right? So not kind of, after I finish. And I just want to take a moment too. My face is going red because I just did something that wasn't people pleasing. And usually I will. I'll be like, okay, and then I'll just shut up. And so that was a lot for me to just be like, stop, I'm not done. So
and good for you for doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it, from a place of love, right? You're not triggered, I'm not triggered, and we're like, okay, cool. Look at just what just happened. So anyways, moving on. What I've decided now is that it's like, thank you so much for sharing. And what is it that this looks like moving forward? And then I get to choose if I'm okay with, if someone says that you need to change, I'm probably not going to. So that would be like, okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. And I guess this is complete. Or maybe this person just needed to get their shit out. And because emotionally, their intelligence isn't as, I don't want to, I like to blow my own horn when I say shit like that. I like to think that I'm emotionally advanced. And then what happens when I do that is I'm actually bypassing the fact that I don't feel my emotions. And then I tell everybody how emotionally intelligent I am, but I'm using that to bypass actually feeling because I don't like to feel at the same time. So I also feel that because I'm a little bit more withdrawn from my fucking emotions, that I'm able to be less emotional when it comes to like showing up. And I've set myself up in a place of like not reacting, but like sitting with it for a moment. So, you know, we like to give tools, and that's why I'm sharing this as well, is like, don't fucking react immediately. Take a few moments or days. Nothing's going to change other than you reacting too quickly and just making it worse. So now I get to let go of my like, fuck you, and my want to fight back. And now I can think about this, and I can think, well, if I come from love, someone else is coming from a place of wanting to be loved. The only way that I can fix this is by loving. So for the past 2 days, I've sent that person love, and then have like, I wrote a bunch of shit out, but I didn't send it. And now it's like, none of it even matters. Because what am I doing? I'm trying to get her to see things differently. She's not going to, because she's in pride, anger, fear, shame. Right. And if I want to come from a place of love, now I just forgive. And now I say, what does this look like moving forward? Because clearly I'm taking ownership. That person's not. They don't fucking care. And I see they're not taking ownership. So do I want to continue in this relationship? And that's to be determined, especially with like, what's the outcome? And then when I'm in love and stay in love, because Meridie's just about to share these, and I love the practice of this because I offered it in my group the other day of like, when I can sit with, okay, what is love? And then I can think of a moment in which I am in love. All I have to do is think about the day I gave birth to the days I gave birth to my children. I was so fucking in love. I'm so grateful for them. Boom, there I go. It's in my body. I feel it. So I can be the saddest ever and just think about the day I gave birth. And now I remember love. And now I can, okay, set myself up right there. I'm in love. Now, how am I going to deal with this? Because if I'm in not love, I'm going to deal with it way different. Okay, now I think this is a perfect time to bring them up.
Okay, so my coach actually put them out in a lot of different, like there's 1, 2, 3.
This is
There's
David
3.
Hawkins. This is like
Yes.
what he
But my
shares
coach,
is,
the way he wrote it out, he's got it so that it's attached to the chakras
yeah,
and to an action. Okay.
yeah,
So let's start at the bottom and we'll work our way up.
yes.
So between 0 and 100 in the frequency scale, it starts with shame, moves up to guilt, then moves up to apathy, then moves up to grief, and then moves up to fear. That is 0 to 100. Okay. That is your destructive energies. Okay. Now, guilt and shame are typically felt in your root chakras. Grief, apathy, grief, and fear are typically felt in your stomach. Okay. And those 5 feelings will typically cause you to have 0 action. So they cause inaction within you. The next ones, desire and anger, wanting and being mad at, are felt in your solar plexus. That's where you feel power. Okay. Those are still destructive and they cause hyperactivity. So now you'll overdo, overwork, get into like addictions. Okay. Within those ones. And included in that one a little bit is pride. As soon as you're feeling pride, you're kind of an ego. But again, if you're feeling pride, you need to think you're like 7 steps above shame. Pride isn't a bad thing to feel. It's just not ideal. You're still not at love. And where we need to always be coming from is love. So desire, anger, pride. After pride comes courage. Courage is literally acknowledging all of yourself. Acknowledging, hey, so I've been in these shitty lower vibrations. Now I have the courage to acknowledge myself, acknowledge my shit, acknowledge my good. Your heart chakra is where you're going to feel pride, courage, neutrality, and willingness. Okay. So you're going to feel those things in your chest. If we move into acceptance, acceptance is the stage where you can acknowledge your shit, literally acknowledge, and then accept it and be like, okay, so I have some shadows and I don't feel great about my shadows. I accept that I have them and now I can, it's like awareness. Okay. I see it and now I am okay with it. I accept that I'm like every other human freaking being. So acceptance and reason are felt within your throat chakra. Those ones are 350 to 400. Now, the lower ones typically move up by like, say, 20. Then they start moving up slightly quicker at 20, at like 25 frequency. I'm talking about, like, I'm going to say hertz is what it's based on. They slowly start to move up about 25. But once you get to acceptance, they start to move up by 50 and 100. Okay. So your third eye chakra, you will feel love and joy. That is where you will feel it, is right here. It's not going to be felt down here. It's going to be felt in between your eyes. So love and joy are 2 of the 4 top. Love is still not the highest, but love is where synchronicity and extraordinary outcomes come from. Your peak performance is going to be found within reason. Okay. So if you're at reason, you're about 400 and the scale goes 0 to 700. Reason is peak performance. You can be reasonable. You can work through your shit. You accepted your shit. You're accepting other people's shit. But love is your next one, which will allow you to react differently. And now that's where they call flow. So love and joy, which leads you, once you start to feel joy, you can lead into peace and enlightenment. And peace is 600, enlightenment is 700. And both peace and enlightenment are felt in your crown chakra. Again, those ones lead you into extraordinary outcomes and feeling synchronistic with life, with the universe, feeling like you're in flow. So there are a massive number of things that are happening here. So I'm going to start from the beginning and go over it one more time. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. And one of the things that my coach said to me is peace and enlightenment are typically felt when you are in meditation, and they may not carry with you throughout every single day because you are a human having a human experience. So have your human experience and feel those things when you're in meditation, and try to love or live within love and joy. And so that's where I'm trying to come from in all the things that I'm experiencing right now. Having people tell me like, hey, so I have some things I need to work through, and being like, okay, here, let me hold some space for you for that. That's uncomfortable. My ego is like, you're going to get hurt. Run, run, run. Here's all the ways that you can run. So yeah, I'm trying to come from a place of love, because I know that when I'm met with love, and vulnerability is the other thing. I always say I have vulnerability as a superpower I have, because I'll expose myself and give you the opportunity to hurt me, but I'm just giving you the opportunity to also respond to me with your own vulnerability and love. So I understand you're feeling a certain kind of way, and I want to be the person you talk to about those things. And I can't be that person if I meet your, hey, I need some space with, okay, well, fuck off then.
Right. I mean, I think essentially, even Tony Robbins, like way back in the day when we went, and he said that actions only ever come from two places, right? A place of love or a place of wanting to be loved. And there's only then two actions you can take. You can come from a place of love, or you can come from a place of wanting to be loved. And so in the emotional intelligence aspect of things, that's why I like to slow down, because I know my initial reaction, which is what I've been taught, which isn't just me, it's pretty much everybody, is to come from a place of wanting to be loved, because internally I'm lacking that love myself. So literally, when you shine a light on the shadow, what you will recognize is that you're not loving yourself. And when you love yourself, then you don't seek love from other people. But you also don't come from a place of wanting to be loved, because you already have all the love that you need. It's so fucking cliche. And yet every day, on a deeper and deeper and deeper level, I'm starting to understand exactly how I'm trying to get this love all over the fucking place. And yet all I need to do is just sit a little bit with Colynn and just fucking love her.
Yes.
That's
yes,
it.
yes. And I had a coaching session last week with a client, their son and the husband. And when I sat down with them and literally said, like, do you understand that you're both coming from a place of wanting to be loved by the other person right now? And yet look at the outcome of it. You guys want to be loved by each other so desperately that it's just easier to walk away. But that's not the truth. Your ego is telling you, I don't want to be hurt because I want to be loved so badly. And they, like, all of them just kind of like, whoa. And then the son was like, Mom, it's true. I just want you to love me. And she's like, I do love you. And then she's like, husband, I just want you to love me. And he's like, I just want you to love me. Like, I don't love anybody else. I just want you to be the one to love me. I need you. And then we started talking about, like, what does that look like though? Because for her, she's loving him from what she knows, which is not touch. And then he sits there and says, I just need you to hug me once in a while. I need you to give me a kiss. I need you to show me that you love me more than you love the dog. Because you walk in the door from the gym and you're like, oh, I just love you. And what about me? Hi, I'm over here and I just want you to love me the way you just love the stupid dog. And she's like, that's so stupid. And I was like, is it though? Is it? Because what you just did was go to that dog with all your love, your openness. You touched him, you caressed him, you told him how handsome he was. When was the last time you did that to your husband? And she was like,
and that's
I don't
the
think I have.
shadow. That's keeping it in the shadow. That's so stupid. There it is right there. That's how you keep it dark.
And her shadow comes from this place of, like, if she's touched by anyone, specifically a man, there's a reason for that, typically sex. And so she doesn't want to be touched. So what the work we did and the work she's working on right now, which I think is going to really help her move through some of her sexual trauma, is we're sitting out there and I was like, and I can see that the little girl in you right now just wants a hug. And she literally got this like disgusted look and was like, don't fucking touch me. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to right now because I can see that like your little girl wants it, but you don't. So we talked for a little bit longer. And then I saw the little girl surface a little more. And I was like, okay. And I stood up and I grabbed her hands and she didn't resist me. She was like, I don't want to. And I was like, I know. And I hugged her and she settled into a little bit. And then I literally, like, with my hand, called the husband over because she didn't want to be touched by him because if he touches her, he's going to want sex. And so I waved him over, and all he wanted to do was love her, but he doesn't know how to do that without touching her. And so since that, the evolution that she's had, even in the last week, has been like mind blowing. She said she comes home every single day from the gym, and the first thing, she doesn't even acknowledge the dog. The first thing she does is walk over to her husband, put her hands on either side of his face, kiss him, comfortable, like saying it felt awkward and disgusting and all the things. And she said, and now, like when she's having a bad day and he walks into the kitchen, he would like give her a hug, try to give her a hug. And she'd be like, don't touch me. I don't want to be touched. Now, and that was part of her homework from me, was when he does that, settle in. And I need you, husband, to push a little bit harder to be willing to like make her accept it because she now knows this is her homework. And she said she was having a rough morning doing something. He came over, he went to hug her, she went to push him away. He just pulled her in a little tighter. And it like, she said, I settled into him. And I've never felt that and not been even in the back of my head, he just wants sex from you. I could tell he just wanted to comfort me. I was having a rough morning. And this whole thing has shifted everything for them, the entire family. And it's just so amazing that when we realize that we're coming from a place that isn't love, that I want you to love me. If I can get you, if I can show you I love you, maybe you could show me you love me too.
Right. I love this. So
yeah,
basically, like the toolkit is to recognize when you're shit talking yourself.
Awareness, big time.
Feelings that you're having about like, oh, this is stupid, oh, that's bad, oh, I'm crazy, those are actually warning signs. They're like alarms, like your body's going and so lean into it, take it out and look at it. To shine the light on it is to call it out.
Yes.
So saying that thing, which Meridee calls vulnerability, is like, I'm feeling jealous right now. But also to be very clear, if you're sharing this with somebody, to let them know, because this is my mistake in like, you know, learning this is like, I'll be like, I'm jealous right now. And then my partner immediately goes on the defense and says that I'm accusing him of cheating on me. And it's like, it's the fuck? We're not.
I just went from me and it turned into you.
Not even how did we get in a big fucking fight about this? So now I've learned, which by his prompting, he's like, can you set me up? This isn't even about me. And that you need me to hold space for you while you share how you feel so that we can work through it.
And I feel like that goes to our Hard Conversations podcast, which I really encourage you, if you haven't listened to, listen to, because that has been a game changer for me in certain conversations that I've had to have. Hey, can I ask you some questions? I feel like I'm getting inside my head and I just want some clarification. It's not even about you. This is about me. Instantly. And it's kind of like my kids coming to me and being like, I've told them before, if you're going to tell me something really bad, be like, hey, so I need to have a conversation with you because I'm immediately going to go, you're 16 and pregnant. Shit. Worst case scenario. And then when you come to me with something that's not that, I'm like, all right, I got this. So coming to somebody and being like, hey, can we have a conversation? Hey, can I be honest with you? Yes, please. And now I've gone worst case scenario in my head. And now if worst case scenario happens, at least I'm prepared for it.
Right. And then call it out. That's the thing is like, that's how you shine the light on the thing is like, right now I'm feeling jealous, but from a place of like setting it up, I'm not accusing you of cheating on me. I am having a feeling and I would like to work through it.
Yeah.
And now this sets my partner up in order to be able to hold space for me to work through it as opposed
and not
to like,
feeling accused.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you shine the light on it, now you can't unsee what you've seen. So then what happens is if you go unconscious, that's by choice. And you have to take responsibility for it. You can't keep blaming other people for your shit.
Yep.
Right? So yeah. I love that. I think that's a great place.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again this week. We appreciate all of your feedback. We appreciate all of your followings, and we appreciate you listening. We will see you guys next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colynn and Meridee Hlokoff, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.